Horror games usually rely on the unknown factor in order for them to be scary, and dissecting the AI of how a horror game works is the fastest way to eliminate that fear. I'm sure you all know how FNAF games work, especially if you've been following this channel for a while, so I thought we would change things up and discuss a different yet equally iconic game. That being Slender and the Eight Pages. Slender and the Eight Pages was once the most popular horror game, scaring hundreds upon thousands of Let's Players and viewers alike. However, despite this game being nearly 13 years old, Jesus Christ, this game has never had its AI dissected and broken down. So, in this video, I thought I would be the one to finally break this game down and tell you everything you need to know about Slender and the Eight Pages. Before I get into the video, however, I do want to say that this video would not be possible without my good friend StickyKeysProductions. Without further ado, let's get into Slender and the Eight Pages. For starters, a recap on how this game works and its story. You are trapped in a forest in the middle of the night and are tasked with finding 8 mysterious pages scattered around the map, while a big scary guy, known as the Slender Man, chases you down and tries to kill you. The more pages you get, the more Slender Man shows up, and if you look at him too much, he kills you, or takes you, whatever that means. And at that point, you've pretty much covered everything that this game is about. There's not much to know, and you might actually think that that is everything there is to talk about. However, once you strip this game back, there is a lot happening behind the scenes. So let's get into that. For starters, we'll go over the base stuff, so let's talk about the map itself first. Here we have a bird's eye view of the map. The player will spawn here and it's the same place every single time. There are 10 main locations on the map that the page can spawn. Those 10 locations are the scary tree, the silo, the 2 vehicles, the large rocks, the single tanker, the tunnel, the cutted woods, the cross wall, the rusted tankers, and the multiple bathrooms. Each of these locations have an equal chance of a page appearing, of which there are 8, no kidding, with there being a 10% chance for a page not to spawn at any given location. The 8 pages are Don't Look or It Takes You, Always Watches No Eyes, Leave Me Alone, Help Me, Can't Run, No No No, Follows, and I guess the trees. All of these can spawn in any order at any of the 10 locations. However, only one can spawn at each location, and each individual location has 4 possible spawns the page can be in. There are, however, a few exceptions. The tunnel, where there's only 3 possible locations, and the 6 cut down trees, where the page can spawn on any of the 6 trees. The only other thing is the bathrooms, where the chair page actually has the lowest chance to spawn of any page, since the chair doesn't always spawn. So if you see that, consider yourself lucky. Now let's discuss what the player can do. The player has a limited stamina bar, which is pretty standard, although seeing Slender Man when he's too close will instantly max out your stamina, so you can run as well as giving you a speed boost. You can tell when he's too close when you hear this sound. Running, however, does have one negative, which is that it does actually make noise, meaning Slender Man can try and pinpoint your location, so only run if you actually need to. The player is equipped with a flashlight that you can toggle on and off, and this flashlight has a limited battery life, which lasts for exactly 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Yeah, a lot of time. I will discuss the flashlight a little bit later on, but that basically covers all the general knowledge. Now, I'm sure the most interesting part of this video for you guys is probably learning how Slender Man himself actually works, because there's definitely a lot of misinformation, and that's intentional. Slender's AI is a bit confusing and honestly quite random, since everything that Slender Man does is based on RNG. Obviously there are some rules, but there's other factors that can affect how Slender Man behaves. So let's talk about how Slender Man actually works. For starters, it should be noted that pretty much every single action that Slender Man chooses to make is entirely based off where the player is facing. Even if Slender wants to make an action, he cannot do it until the player has looked away from his desired location, but I'll get more into this later. Once the game starts, you have a grace period where Slender Man doesn't actually spawn. In fact, Slender Man doesn't spawn in until you either collect 1 page or after 5 minutes of you not collecting a single page. You will know when Slender Man has spawned in once you hear this sound. Every notebook you get, Slenderman gets faster and faster. The way he moves around the map is simple. Once Slenderman spawns, he starts to teleport around the map at set points until he's a certain distance from the player. Once he has eyes on the player, he has two possible things he can do. The first thing, which is what he usually does, is slowly move towards the player, moving faster with the more notebooks you collect or the longer you take. The second thing he can do is teleport to a spot out of line of sight of the player and try to trap the player. He is more likely to actually try and trap you the more pages you have and the longer you take. This is because collecting a page or taking too long adds to his, well, what we're going to call progress bar. Here's how Slenderman uses this progress. Collecting a page or being in the game for 5 minutes will add 1 to his progress. Here's what Slenderman does at each stage. Once he gets to 1 progress, he spawns in and begins teleporting around. However, he is very slow and unlikely to actually find the player. But he's so slow that it's very easy to outrun him even if he does actually find you. At 2 to 4 progress, he will get the ability to spawn in front of the player to block their path if the player cannot see them. At 5 to 6 progress, he will teleport noticeably faster and begin to attempt to trap you way more often. Basically a 50% chance to try and trap you every time that he gets a chance to. At 7 to 8 progress, he is full on hunting you, basically locking onto you and never losing sight of you, always attempting to trap you. Beyond 8 progress, he just gets more and more aggressive until he kills you. Slenderman will kill you either when he gets too close to you or you look at him for too long. Basically, every time you look at him, a timer goes up faster based on how close you are to Slenderman. Basically, getting too close to Slenderman is him having a direct line of sight while you're in his quote-unquote kill bubble, which is about a meter from him. For too long, will kill you as well. Doing both is basically a guaranteed death sentence. However, Slenderman can actually decide just not to kill you if he's feeling nice, or he can just straight up kill you if he's feeling like an absolute dick, which is normally what he decides to do. So now we know how Slenderman builds up progress, but how do you actually deal with him? Well, now's the part of the show where we address some misinformation. People will say that not looking at Slenderman will drive him away, so to win, you need to not look at him at all. This is completely false. Looking at Slenderman for too long will obviously get you killed, however, looking at Slenderman also pauses him, making him unable to move for a short while, as he only chases you when you are not looking at him, so occasional glances will stall him. Just be sure that he is far away when you do this, or else you might get wrecked. Another myth is that if you turn the flashlight off, Slender will not be able to see you as well. And this is extremely false. In fact, there's nothing really in the code that actually says anything about this, except for the fact that turning off the flashlight does have 2 effects. The first is, well, you can't fucking see, but the second is that the Slenderman timer gets slowed, meaning that you can look at him for a bit longer, but it's not really worth it. It's only like 1.5 times more than usual, which is not actually that much. But now we get to talk about some quirks of how Slender works. If Slender is in your line of sight, static will start to fill up on the screen, and it takes about 3 seconds for your screen to completely fill up with static. And fun fact, but this static is not actually the sound you need to watch out for when it comes to knowing if Slenderman is trying to kill you. It's actually based on this sound effect. Hearing this sound means that Slender is basically in his kill state. So you can actually look at him, although not recommended because Slenderman can just straight up decide to kill you no matter what, if you happen to be looking at him, since he does have like 2 kind of stages here. However, again, he has to be close enough. Slenderman can only actually fill your screen of static if you are able to directly see any part of his body. Even if his arm is sticking out behind a tree, he will let himself be known. Funny enough, but there are actually a couple of windows on some of the cars that act as solid walls in the game, so you can actually look at Slenderman through them without getting affected at all. However, blocking Slender with an object to the point that he is fully covered will allow you to be completely safe and force him to either come into view or teleport. Slender can also only teleport if you are not directly looking at him, and only if there is room for him to do so, as he cannot directly teleport onto the player, as that would just be way too unfair, which is kind of surprising considering that this is Slenderman we're talking about. Now, the last thing I have to discuss is the changes to daylight mode, which is just that you can see more. Not really much else to add, it is daytime. However, because of this, it's much easier to see the tentacles that come out of Slenderman's back, which is very hard to see in the nighttime version. And these tentacles are how you actually tell that he's in his kill state. And that is everything. Really hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, let me know in the comments below. If you have any other games that you would love me to cover, please feel free to suggest them. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you subscribed. I'm trying to get to 100k by the end of the year, and it would mean the world for me if we could hit it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.